1v1 me! I'm champion! 1v1 me!
Wagwan, everyone, it's your boy, your favorite light skin, aka Living La Vida light skin, the new conductor of the Soul Train, aka Dane Cornelius. The Jewish star system is real serious. You know what I'm saying? Stuff like that. Anywho, we're here today to talk about two Los Angeles legends, the clash of the California Titans. You know what I'm saying? Like Nipsey Hussle and Kendrick Lamar. Now, this topic is very interesting. I want to sit back and talk about who had the greater influence and impact on California overall. Who was the king of Cali, so to speak. Unfortunately, Hussle the Great was taken from us prematurely. Moment of silence for Bull. Neighborhood. So because of that, we're going to keep it around a 10-year span. We're just going to speak about both of their accolades and things that they done in music from around 2008 going on to 2019. Both of these artists came up in that blog era time. You know what I mean? If you was there, you was there. I know you remember it. It was nothing like waking up, going on all these different, sites. What was it? Soho, Hip Hop Since 1987, Dat Piff, all that stuff, right? Even like when Apple Music first started popping and just looking for different mixtapes, different artists, this is where they were coming up in that time. So both had music before '08 a little bit. However, we're just going to speak on that time for the start. 2008, we're introduced to Nipsey Hussle. Young Hussle in the house. You know what I'm saying? I'm coming straight off of Slauson, a crazy motherfucker named Nipsey. I'm turned up because I grew up in the 60s. Anywho, that's another story for another time. You know what I mean? Bro came out gang banging on the whole industry. You know what I'm saying? What Hussle say? I doubled up, tripled up, nigga what? Banged on the whole game. I ain't give enough. You know what I'm saying? Hussle came out hard, pause. And that's how we were introduced to Hussle, man. You know what I'm saying? About a year later, we start hearing rumblings of a young man that's spitting fire out of the West Coast by the name of Kendrick Lamar. We were introduced to him by that Kendrick Lamar LP. However, it was that Overly Dedicated that really put Bull on the map. You know what I'm saying? Like, it was songs like PNP 1.5, She Needs Me, Growing Apart to Get Closer, and The Heart Part 2. To me, this is when Dot really got pushed to the masses. After this, you really start hearing about not only just Kendrick, but TDE as a whole. The whole Black hippie movement, all the different moving parts that made up that label. And just like that, between these two and a few other artists, the West Coast was reunited. So both of them were doing their thing on the indie route. You know what I mean? Nipsey Hussle had his situation, which eventually landed him with a major, and Kendrick had his situation with TDE, and the same ended up landing him with the major too. However, early on, Hussle had a different vision. You know what I'm saying? I feel like where Kendrick was comfortable with being an artist, Hussle wanted to not just be the artist, he wanted to be an executive. You know what I mean? As he said later on, you can't just talk to me like I'm an artist. I come in the building as the executive. That's the artist, not just the artist. All money in, I went and got my own niggas. You hearing? Hussle went and got his own thing, that all money in. He started really pushing that flag, and he started doing a lot of things that was innovative. Like, do you know the world's first smart store was developed by this man, Nipsey Hussle? Shout out, what's folks' name? Idris Sandu or something like that. Yeah, I mean, shout him out because he was instrumental in that whole time period with Hussle. And by this time, Hussle had already set the streets ablaze, you dig? He was already heavy in the streets as far as with the music. We ain't gonna talk about the other stuff. But with the music, he was heavy in the streets and he was pushing his brand. He was known for his own brand. It wasn't him getting on with somebody else or somebody co-signing or a major label pushing him. This was all off the gristle, off the muscle. What bro say? 10 toes in these Chuck T's, you hearing? Like he was dropping classic. You know what I'm saying? I gave you classic after classic. Street Soul Fire, soft rappers can't match this. Sorry, man. I'm a real Hussle fan, you know what I mean? Like I said, bro was really feeding the streets at this time. He gave you Bullets Ain't Got No Names, Volume 1 and 3. Then he came out with the Marathon. Then the Marathon continues. Then Extra Laps. Bro was really going crazy. And it was undeniable that he was a rising star coming out of the West Coast. Like if you mentioned the West Coast, you had to mention Hussle. And at the same time, Kendrick Lamar was solidifying himself within the industry as, no pun intended, or pun intended, the top dog of the West Coast. Early blog era, he hit us with Overly Dedicated, then came back with the cult classic Section 80. One of the greatest albums ever to grace hip hop within the past decade. You know what I mean? That project really showcased his lyrical ability and his knack to put together songs. You know what I mean? Not just rapping on beats, but structuring songs, making songs that multiple people can listen to, not just one demographic. And within that time frame, the West came together as a collective. I know y'all remember, like, it was Game, Snoop, Dre, all the big heads, you know what I mean? And a couple of the local West Coast artists at that one concert or whatever he had, and they crowned him the king of the West Coast. Now, as a Nipsey Hussle fan, I was slightly salty at this. You know what I'm saying? This joint had me bloody. I'm like, what? Hustle been putting in the work. Hustle been doing this. You know what I mean? Like, and I feel like Hustle addressed this on that Change the World. You know what I'm saying? Resurrect the West. I'm just doing what I'm meant to do. 2 words, then who if it isn't dude? Like, on me, I felt like Hustle was like, man, y'all got me fucked up. Like, because really, when you look at it at that time, Hustle wasn't just an artist, he was an executive and a brand. You dig? Like, he had his own thing, his own motion going on. And with all due respect, Kendrick Lamar was just an artist, you know what I mean? Like, he could rap great, he could put songs together great nonetheless. However, Hustle was on a different tier as far as being somebody impactful for the West Coast. Not too many people at that time could say they were on their 100% independent grind, you dig, and still getting views and looked at as if he was on a major. Once Doc got that cosign right there, it was taking him to the next level, undoubtedly. Like, he was going to be somebody that you were going to hear about from out the West. And he was making the West look good, you know. So it wasn't like he was just, you know, hippity ski bop BD, rap, hip hop, and this is what I be. You know what I'm saying? Like, bro was really putting them bars together, putting them metaphors together, putting them similes together, and also structuring songs. So I could see why, like, they were herald him as the next big thing. However, in comparison to Hustle at that time, Hustle was still doing more to be put in that place to me than Kendrick. One place Kendrick beat Hustle at was putting out a debut album first. Kendrick was able to put out Good Kid, Mad City. And like I said, this was before Hustle linked with a major and got to put his debut album out. Good Kid, Mad City, it's like one of them albums where it's like you remember where you was at the moment that joint dropped. You remember what you was doing the first time you listened to the album. It was an instant classic. It explored the life of a young melanated man growing up in Los Angeles, Compton to be exact, or Bompton, depending on where you're from. You know what I mean? And what it was like, the mindset, the environment, what was going on at that time. And bro knocked it out the park with songs like Don't Kill My Vibe and what Backstreet Freestyle was going off everywhere. Ah, ding, 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 ah, ding, ding, ding. That's all you heard all my life. You know what I'm saying? Everywhere you go, you heard that joint. And that's what made that album so crazy, like the fact that he had reach across the nation. You dig? This is a kid coming out of California. You hear it? And everybody across the nation is listening to and playing this man's music. Some really put on for the coast. Did like 240 some the first week. You know what I mean? Like, eventually it went gold and eventually the album went platinum. You dig? And this is albums. You dig? This is not streams. Like, bro was really selling music. You dig? Like, this was the time where they were still selling CDs. You know what I mean? It wasn't just, oh, hop on this app and listen to the song. No, this man sold 240 some physical, emphasis, physical CDs in a week. That's major. Bro had the whole West Coast on fire at this point. You hearing? And while his star was rising, Hustle's was on the same level. The next year, we get Crenshaw by Nipsey Hussle. Cub really did his big one on this. I ain't even going fraud. Like, even the way he decided to market the album, bro represent the 6, bro represent the C, bro represent the blue. But he took a bold step by putting all red on the cover and doing it for marketing reasons, like, oh, that's one of the major colors that grabs your eye. So when you're looking at it in a sea of other tapes, you'll see mine. It's going to stand out. And that's how you knew this man was a thinking man. He wasn't caught up in hood social norms. He was willing to step outside of the box to make sure that he put himself in a good light. On top of that, Cuz sold the album for $100 and was getting copies off. Like whatever he printed up, he sold that out. This album was critically acclaimed and solidified Nipsey Hussle as a West Coast staple. He gave y'all songs like one of one. Ooh, you looking at a one of one. You dig, face the world. This your life, you could play with it. You make your bed, you gonna lay in it. Do your thing, just be safe with it. Triple bunks in the state prison. Woo! Going crazy, you know what I'm saying? And this joint was produced by none other than Ninth Wonder, shout out North Carolina, and gave you other songs like 4 in the Morning and Come Over featuring James Fauntleroy, showing you that he knows how to make songs, you dig? Like he can appeal to, different demographics of people, not just all hood. He can also appeal to the ladies, you hearing? And at this point, him and Dot are neck and neck as far as their influence on the coast, you dig? Like they both are the standout and go-to people for the West Coast, and they both are doing things in their respective communities to uplift their people. You could give the edge to Dot, you could get an edge to Hustle. However, they're both doing their thing, and they're both showing you why they deserve to be in that conversation for the king of the West Coast. So 2014, Hustle dropped Mailbox Money, which I consider the blueprint to how to make money in this digital age. That's why I kind of get slightly offended when I hear Dot say ownership, the blueprint is by me. Nah, son, the blueprint was and always been by Hustle. Hustle was the one showing us how to collaborate with people from different sizes and sets, how to get equity in the company, how to create a brand, how to, market yourself, all that. Hustle started that first, you know what I mean? And I feel like Mailbox Money, it's just always been, in my opinion, because it was a blue cover, it was him saying, this is the blueprint, you dig? This is how you want to do it. And that album just added to the allure, you know what I'm saying? With Crenshaw, he was selling them joints for 100, you know what I'm saying? Hove copped 100 of them joints, like, I need that, you know what I mean? Like, that was some epic ish, And with Mailbox Money, he doubled up on y'all niggas, you know what I'm saying? He was like, I ain't selling this joint for a whole man. I'm selling this joint for a rack. You hearing? Like, he really changed the game. He was showing y'all you ain't got to sell your music at this price point. You can sell it at this price point. This is art. You know what I'm saying? Like, that's what just made Nipsey Hussle different. He was always taking things to a different level, a next level, showing you different ways to make money and how to separate yourself from the competition. This was another critically acclaimed project. However, Nipsey Hussle was still independent at this point. You dig? So a lot of his albums didn't get that major push because it's him doing the work. It's not him turning in the project and the label does the work. He has to get it out there to radio. He has to get it out there on these different blog sites. He has to do X, Y, Z, spend the money, all these things to make sure that his songs and his music gets pushed. And Kendrick shows you what it looks like when you're in that system, when you do get pushed by a major label. Because next year, he drops a cult classic, not even cult, a certified classic with To Pimp a Butterfly. This album right here changed the game. You dig? Like, it made you take your art a step further. You dig? Like, if you were someone who says, I'm a rapper, you couldn't just put music together anymore. You couldn't just put songs on an album and call it an album. You had to actually have concepts, themes, lyrical ability, all these things to show that this is what an artist is. And this is when Kendrick was really going on. And this is when Kendrick was really starting to go on his run, where you see him actually dropping projects after project, and they are nothing but classics. In the coming years, they both dropped good projects. Kendrick Lamar with Untitled. Nipsey gave you Slauson Boy Volume 2. And Untitled was really like a project that kind of changed the sound of hip hop music. It was very live instrumentation driven, and he was talking about a lot of deep concepts, And with Hustle dropped a project that was really geared towards like the West Coast. It had the West Coast sound vibe. A lot of artists from the West Coast was featured on there, and artists from elsewhere. And going on after that, they both are gearing up for their next projects with Victory Lap for Nipsey Hussle and Damn for Kendrick Lamar. So Hustle was saying that there was things going on within the streets that had him preoccupied, and he wasn't putting forth as much music, but he was giving us a lot of visuals, a lot of things to show you how he's moving and what he's doing. And during this time, he was actually putting forth solid projects for the community. You know, he started doing things with Puma where they collaborated on the initiative to bring opportunities to less fortunate communities. He did the Vector 90, which was a STEM incubator for less fortunate people, you know, to teach them how to grow a business and have access to economics, which is truly a noble and honorable cause. Around that same time, Kendrick Lamar dropped his album Damn, which the following year he would end up winning a Pulitzer Prize for music for that album. That's how much of an impact this man was having on music, that he was becoming essentially a Nobel Peace Prize winner, because a lot of the references on that album was geared towards, I feel, a man understanding his place in the world, doing the work to change himself, to change the world, but realizing that it's possibly not enough. And along with the theme of that album, just how he decided to orchestrate it with having the world, you know what I'm saying, famous Kid Capri, you know what I mean, to kind of host and DJ that whole album. It brought it to another level. And even just him having a song with U2 on there, and it actually being a definitive track on that album. It's not just something that was put on there because it was U2. It was really a well-designed song with a good message. You know, at this time, both Kendrick and Nip was being recognized on their perspective levels, you know. Like, the people was really championing Nip. The people, I would say he was the people's champ at this time, because he was 10 toes down in his community. We were seeing it, you know, through different visuals, things he was bringing up. We seeing him doing these things, and we seeing what comes along with it. You know, while Kendrick was, we're hearing about it, you know. We hear he's doing this, we hear he's doing that, and then he pops up and boom, you know, he's a Pulitzer Prize winner. So they both were leading their generation just in different ways. To me, Kendrick was being more of the example, while Nip was showing you examples. You know, Kendrick was like, this is what I'm doing to get to where I'm at. Hustle was like, this is what you need to do to get to where I'm at. And either way isn't wrong. It would be more on what path you believe would be best to take. And both of these artists have respect for one another, because when Nipsey Hussle finally dropped his studio album, Victory Lap, he had a feature from Kendrick Lamar. And that was one of the best songs on that album, Dedication. Within Dot Verse, you could hear the respect that he had for Nipsey Hussle because of what Nipsey was doing. My L said, do a song with Nip. K-Dot, he a better crip. I said, he a man first. Woo! Like, you don't hear what's coming out his lips. You know what I'm saying? He's telling you, like, man, this man talking about, you know, ownership, black businesses, how to fix the community, you know. And that was one thing they both were enthralled in, you know. Their, how do you say, philanthropic, you know what I'm saying, philanthropic or whatever, you know what I'm saying, both of their philanthropic choices, you know, both of them being philanthropists for the community, for their neighborhoods. And unfortunately, this is where the friendly rivalry would end, because early 2019, we would lose Nipsey Hussle. And I ain't gonna fraud, that joint really affected me. It's like, I'm sure everybody remembers what they were doing and where they was at on that day, you know, and still to this day, it's times where I just shed tears, because that man was a real influence on my life, you know. Bro had that line, and kids tell me I'm the reason that they finished school, and if it wasn't for the marathon, they wouldn't have made it through it. That's some real stuff. Through my trials and tribulations in my life, I was listening to that album to help me get through where I was at, and real life finished school because of it. So when it comes to hustle, I get emotional because he had a real impact on my life and I'm sure the life of others. Both artists have assisted me in my life through their music with giving me perspectives and ideologies to hold on to. Me personally, I'm very grateful for the information that they relayed and I was able to receive. I don't know, man. It's on you. Who y'all believe had a greater impact on their coast and their culture. Some days, I don't know. It's not even some days, man. I'm a hustle fan through and through, and I believe, to me, hustle had the one up just because everything that Dot is doing now, hustle been doing. Hustle been putting on for the West. Hustle been uniting the people in the West. Hustle been an executive. So a lot of the things that Dot is doing, like I said, now Hustle was already doing that. He was already pushing the ball forward visibly. Not to say that Kendrick wasn't doing things in the background, but just visibly from what we see, Hustle was already doing. So, I can't call it who got the one up on who. However, I'm a probably champion Hustle the Great a little more than I would Dot. You know what I mean? Like, I'ma always give Dot his just due and his respect. Nonetheless, you forget that I can't call it. You feel me? I'm going Hustle. You dig? Like, some of y'all might go Kendrick. I'm going Hustle. But that's for y'all to debate amongst yourselves. You know what I mean? It's your boy Dane Darrell, the new conductor of the Soul Train, aka Dane Cornelius, the Jewish Star System, aka Is Real Serious. You know what I'm saying? Hope y'all enjoyed this piece of content I brought for y'all. We signing out. Boom. Or as Dot would say, do. We out of here.
I don't give a fuck, nigga. I'm you to the source.